Hey everybody, welcome to the ABC's RPGs wrap-up episode for Werewolf the Apocalypse. This time around, I was your storyteller. My name is Justin. My pronouns are he, him. Today, we have with us Dalton and Spencer. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Spencer. Yes, I played Z Osman, a Philodox Auspice werewolf this campaign, part of the tribe of the Children of Gaia. Yeah, it was really cool because, well, we'll get into it, but he has a whole backstory about being a philanthropist. So,
Yep, I'm Dalton. I have he/him pronouns, and during the campaign, I played Benny. He was an Arun Gale Stalker, one of the more fighty guys.
mm-hmm.
I'm going to turn us back to our real names on the background since I have now said my piece on who I was, and I don't need to remember it anymore.
Nope.
Yeah. So for our streamers who are just tuning into this, go back and watch the stream. Go watch the other episodes. You get so much more context. This is going to be weird if you don't watch just this one.
Yeah.
No, but if you are streaming in, Werewolf the Apocalypse is a gothic punk adventure set in a kind of parallel universe to your own.
We've used the comparisons to Underworld several times.
Yes.
So is the legal system.
It still has the U.S. legal system. Yeah, that also happened. It deals with lots of moral gray areas and environmentalism, the difference between doing what's right and, say, eco-terrorism. After all, you are vicious monsters.
Yeah.
So we played with a few people this time around. We used the new 5th edition by Renegade Studios instead of the old White Wolf system. I think we want to talk about maybe big parts of the system. Of course, the system uses a pip system, and if you're not familiar with that, that means each attribute has a pool of 1 to 5 pips or dots. That each dot represents a die, and the game uses exclusively D10. And everything is based on kind of a base 10 difficulty system where 1 is kind of a routine thing, just starting your car any old normal morning. And 9 is, it's really D9 because D10 is, auto success. D9 is finding like the example that they use in the book, which I think is good to show you the difference between a difficulty check of 1 and the difficulty check of 9 is that 1 is starting your car in the morning and 9 is finding one particular homeless person in the city of LA in one night.
Being able to track him down. Yeah.
Yeah. Be very, very difficult to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because it still uses for comparable to other tabletops. It still uses a stat plus skill rolling method, but like you said, it's like your the amount of pips you have is your dice pools. So if you have 2 in your athletics and then 1 in brawl, then that's 3 D10s that you're rolling in total, which is pretty cool.
Yes. It also kind of restricts what you can do because, really speaking, you'd have to roll pretty well to get a DC 3 if your pool was only 3 dice. You only have 2 in one and 1 in the other or whatever.
Yeah. And sorry, I said 2 skills there. I should have said strength plus brawl.
Sure. Yeah, if you're trying to bust down a door, strength plus athletics maybe.
Yeah.
and it was a pretty sturdy door. It might be DC 3. And you'd need all 3 of those dice to be 6 or more, which is how they determine success. All the skill checks are kind of a successful die roll. It's 6 or more on the die. And the difficulty is really determined by how many successes you need. The other fun thing about that is that allows the storyteller, which, if you're really only familiar with Dungeons and Dragons up to this point, that is the same word for GM, DM, whatever you want to call it. But the group leader establishes, how many successes you need. And likewise, if you get more than the required successes, the storyteller has a lot of leeway to give you bonuses based on how well you do. Which you'll see in our stream. The other very big differences between this and most other tabletop role-playing games is that it's, I don't want to use the term rules light, rules flexible.
Rules flexible.
So you can kind of do whatever you need to do based on what your players are trying to do in the realm and just pick 2 stats that make sense and have them roll that. And if it's like a normal check, it's like a 2 or a 3, or if it's tougher, it's 4 or 5, whatever.
Yeah.
That being said, I think that other tabletop play games will give you, if they want to do this sort of specific action, it'll be this mechanic. And Werewolf is like, I just pick 2 that make sense to do that. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Tell the story. Don't get too bogged down in the rules. Which can be a little bit of a double-edged sword. Because your players will try and maybe fight something that doesn't have stats attached to it or the relevant stats you kind of need. And you just got to go with it. You got to pick what you need based on what makes sense maybe about other stats, or just give it a fair dice pool because you want to give it a good chance of succeeding, or just say that it does what it wants. Because you're the storyteller and you do what you want, as long as it makes sense and it's fun for your team, your troop. Let's see. So I think those are probably the biggest differences between that and most other tabletop games.
Yeah.
Combat works wildly different. We talk about that during the. But I don't hate it though. It's faster.
Yeah.
So if you are playing with people that are not really combat oriented, great game. Because combat's supposed to last 3 turns max, and then something happens. If they don't kill the baddie in 3 turns, the baddie runs off and may lead them to the next. Is now just a plot hook.
That's something I really enjoyed probably the most about this RPG, was because I feel like the biggest problem with other tabletop role-playing games is that combat can turn into a slog. Especially when I've run 5th edition, combat can last sometimes multiple sessions, but definitely a session. And if you have newer people who are still learning everything they can do, that slows everything down. Werewolf is basically just no, three rounds, move on. You should know who's winning in this battle and determine the outcome based on that, which I think is so cool, because it goes into, like you're saying, the combat are contested roles where you're rolling against other people and defending by dividing your dice and stuff like that. So I think I think that they handled multiple opponent combat really well. So if you're fighting more than one person, which is very difficult, way more difficult than John Wick, or action movies make it look, your dice pool is divided based on where you're focusing your combat.
how you're focusing your combat, which is cool because it keeps the bad guys who usually have significant dice pools from overwhelming your players, and just TPK is possible, very possible. But if your players are smart about combat and work as your wolf, fight as a pack. As long as your troop is doing that and being smart about their combat, they should be able to get through most combat instances pretty quick, pretty easy, unless there's something that's crazy, or they're way out max.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I like the contested, just both, like, everybody decides who they're fighting and you roll your pools of dice, and whoever gets more successes, it deals with the damage. I think that works really well for like a more story focused system like this.
Yeah.
And like the combats are treated just like any other sort of like extended skill check or like series of skill checks. I think that definitely makes sense. And I wouldn't say it's like a positive for this type of system, but I also wouldn't hold it against D&D for having more protracted combats, because that's kind of the point. Like, you're playing D&D because you want to have like a interesting tactical like grid type of thing going on. Like, you want to like be tracking how far you're crawling into the dungeon and making sure you're like keeping track of that sort of thing.
Goes back to the history of like, it was built for dungeon crawling.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Right.
It just leans into the you play you play the type of game for like the type of play you want to have.
Yeah.
That's why you don't try to shovel everything into 5th edition, because there's all sorts of other fully different games that are better at doing that type of thing.
Yeah. Like Werewolf, like that's one of the things that Ashley couldn't be here today, but she really enjoyed Werewolf. So much so. I think we talked a little bit about our history in session 0, but like both me and her had played like the Heart of the Forest visual novel, and she was instantly hooked on the lore already. And coming in from that perspective and being like, oh, the whole game is just story driven, I can't wait to be a werewolf. She loved it. I mean, that's why she made a Wolfborn and everything like that, because she was all in on being a werewolf. So
yeah, that is something that's kind of cool. That's also very different from a lot of the usual games. Races work very differently. Everybody's a human. There is no really kind of thing of race. You're either kind of you're a wolf-born or you're a human-born. And this is another difference they had between, we can get to the differences and things that we liked. Unfortunately, you couldn't be someone that actually had 2 werewolf parents.
2 Garou parents, yeah.
2 Garou parents.
Yeah.
Yes, because they do not call them werewolves here. In Werewolf, they call them Garou. There are actually separate things that are werewolves, and they're not really accepted in Garou society, usually because it's mages or something that have stolen the ability to change. Yeah. And they are persona non grata. Another big difference is hit points. Health works very different. You have kind of levels of hit points that you can have, and you can recover based on whether it's certain kinds of damage or not. So the only things that can, of course, really hurt werewolves are fire and silver, and the teeth and claws of other supernatural beings. And they can heal them, mid-combat. Almost every werewolf can do that. Lots of good stuff going on there.
That was so crazy for me to find out, was that it not only do you have like 2 types of damage, superficial and aggravated, and superficial can turn into aggravated once it's filled up. But you have two separate kind of health bars. Like you have your health, your physical health, but your mental willpower too. That can also take superficial and aggravated damage. Like
psychological damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that goes into something we didn't really touch on, like we didn't have the opportunity to do, but the rules do outline like mental combats. Like it treats like arguments and like
getting embarrassed.
Yeah, it treats those as like the same way it treats combat. Which I think is very cool and something that a lot of systems are missing. Kind of like that like a back and forth way to do like persuasion as opposed to just I mind control the person because I rolled high.
Yeah. Yes, which is a lot of times we're all familiar with the seduce the dragon trope.
Yeah.
You want to do in my game, okay. You're not going to survive that interchange, but go ahead.
Dragons can shapeshift for a reason.
No, they're not. Not in my game, they don't. Not in my game.
You get all dragon or you get no dragon?
Yeah, you get all dragon. You want to get freaky deaky with the dragon. Well,
that's true. Why would a dragon lower themselves into the form of a lesser being?
It's gonna get Tijuana freaky on you real fast.
Oh God.
No, I just kind of hate that trope. No, you don't.
No.
The dragon doesn't want to. The dragon it doesn't want to do you, bro.
But yeah, that goes back into what Dalton was saying, right? Like it's in D&D, it's kind of like an all or nothing, right? Like, oh, I rolled high enough. I
persuade him.
Yeah. Where this is a series of contests.
I did not pick your pocket. Oh, I guess these guys didn't pick our pockets. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're really nice.
They're really nice. Those guys are really great. I want to pick my pocket. I agree. The back and forth, the willpower it takes. You can also use willpower. You can just kind of choose to do something at the expense of willpower. You can force yourself to hold the door open, and you might take some physical and some mental damage doing so, but you can keep it open that last little bit. And that is one thing I really like about the system is that it kind of really puts the players first over the system. And the attitude is that your players should be able to do the cool things they want to do. It's a storytelling game. Let them be the main characters. They are. Dangerous solo main character energy aside, they should be able to do they're werewolves capable of fantastic feats and stuff. So they should be able to do cool things. They want to rip a vampire in half at the waist. Cool. Strength plus brawl, buddy. Do it. I hope you get it.
I hope you get it.
Yeah.
That was, so those are some of the main differences between that and a lot of the other. I mean, I feel like I'm forgetting something. There's other stuff you guys wanted to talk about, kind of differences,
Yeah, going back before you get too far away, I want to talk about like how the dice pool system worked. Because like in general, like I think it's very interesting to look at like the core resolution mechanic of an RPG and like why they chose to do a particular thing. And like the roll a whole bunch of D10s and count the amount that are greater than a 6 is a fun enough thing. Like, I mean, I love it when players love rolling lots of dice at once. That's very cool. Yeah. But like on the surface, it's not a whole lot different than rolling like a D20 and adding a modifier or rolling 2D6 and adding a modifier. But what I really liked that set it apart was, and it was unfortunate that we missed this in the rules, and we can talk about that later, but replacing some of those dice with rage dice, like representing like your consistent like inner rage as a werewolf. I thought that was like a really flavorful way to include that and keep your players thinking about that. And like there's always a chance that you will just rage out and just you'll be pissed off and just fail violently because like you're constantly fighting that inner rage, and that being a part of every single roll you make is very cool.
Succeed greatly if you're trying to do something like physical. So
yeah, or violent.
Yeah,
I think the key
it's violent.
Yeah, I think the key thing is violence, not just physical.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because picking a lock is a physical activity.
Yeah,
but you know, like I'm going to try and pick the lock on this wooden door.
Right.
You know, and then you roll 2 rage. You know, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, you got 3 rage, so roll your rage die. Oh, you got 2 ragey rage.
Yeah.
Well, you break down the door.
You bust it down. You're just like start fiddling.
You try and lockpick, but you're in Krynos form, and your hands just go right through the door. And now everybody knows you're here.
Yeah. But just like the physical, we played online, but like the physical, like, oh yeah, I have like these normal D10s, but there's also these red ones with scary teeth on them. I think playing in person, that'd be a fun little touch.
Yeah,
I mean, I really like that.
Red D10.
Yeah, I think they sell like Werewolf.
They do.
They sell a set of D10 Werewolf dice on
Renegade site.
Renegade's website.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another. Thanks for bringing that up. So one of the other chief differences, you know, between this game and kind of any other game is the mechanic of rage.
I would say
rage is more than just. Oh, sorry, what were you saying?
I mean, I would say that the rage mechanic and like handling rage is like the most like the unique thing about this game. Like the dice pool resolution can be found in other places, and like the various like little bits, like that's all other things. But like the rage is what makes it Werewolf. It what makes this game. I think.
Yeah, I agree a lot. I mean, even from Vampire the Masquerade, another game by Renegade Studios, or another game that Renegade Studios revived from the World of Darkness. You have other kind of unique mechanics there. I think the real thing with Vampire is the kind of social, political aspect of that game. Rage in this, you know, you have a system called Rage, and that one is limited by 5 pips. And each time you want to do something, you need to roll your Rage dice first to see if you don't freak out, Hulk out, whatever you want to call it, and give in to this more than just kind of being angry. This is a primal drive, a primal passion that fuels you as a being. It's kind of cool. You know, if you are trying to be violent, getting ones on these guys, or getting the special flashy. I don't remember if they're kind of bitey looking, flashy looking. Anyway, the violent dice. You end up doing way more damage. Great, your rage helps you just rend enemies of Gaia. But it can really, that's the almost kind of like the nat 1 of the game that can really kind of throw a wrench in things.
Yeah.
Or nat 20, depending upon really kind of what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to break the door down, you get those violent dice. Yay.
Yeah.
If you're trying to hack a computer and you mess up some of your keystrokes and punch the monitor, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's fun. Yeah, I like that flip. It was really fun. Overall, I would say it was really fun game. I don't know. What else do you guys want to talk about? Things that you like, especially as new players. Things that you kind of appreciated.
How much backstory and is tied? First off, hugely rich story for something that's story focused. Hugely rich, like backstory and stuff like that. Love that. but the advantages and flaws normally, like when we went into it and I heard advantages and flaws and we had to choose them, I was like, oh great, like I don't want to do this. This seems like, I don't know, a part of me was kind of dragged my feet because I was like, oh, I have to figure out what all I want with this. But then like being able to be like, oh, I can pick a day job. And then it does this benefit. And then, oh, I can have some fame. You know what? I'll tie these two together into my backstory. And then, oh, well, hold on, though. Fame can also have a negative effect, and I'll use that for part of my negative effect, and I have an infamous partner. And I immediately, like, I already had kind of the concept idea because that was part of the character process. But then going to advantages and flaws, all of a sudden I, like, knew what I wanted to do for this character, and he had years of backstory made just because I was inspired. I was inspired by the advantages and flaws and how that could affect my in-game play of the story and how that could happen. I mean, that's Justin, that's why you had that police officer specifically tailing my character the entire time, right? So
well, I mean, I don't want to take away from your own accomplishments.
Yeah. They definitely didn't help the situation.
Because you did plenty to earn that. You know, so don't sell yourself short there, buddy.
You were the reason the cops were suspicious.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I really also enjoyed, Spencer, just how well it blended like mechanics and story together.
Yeah.
And the like advantages and flaws are definitely a huge part of that. Like you were saying, like you'd come in with like an idea, like a character concept, but picking those definitely helps like flesh out details and like add a lot of like depth and complexity and like intrigue to a character that you might not have like initially thought of, and like getting you to think about aspects of your character that you wouldn't have necessarily thought of at first, to kind of like put in nice little details to add, and forcing players to add those details to their characters so the GM has a little bit easier time incorporating fun things as opposed to like grasping at straws and guessing and
because like
I like that as the storyteller. You know, you have picked your advantages and flaws. You have picked them, and that is, you know, the cool thing is they choose to, you know, you build who you are first, and then the werewolf element of who you are is added on top of that. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where like because we have touchstones, these people that kind of like bring us back to kind of Earth is how I kind of think of it. It kind of reminds us of like who we are as a person and ground us back into our normal lives. And there was like a couple I Lizzie and Sadie I kind of already had kind of going, but like my third one, Bill, who's like my coworker, he directly came from those advantages and flaws, because the advantages and flaws, that's where I was like, well, he's a philanthropist and he wants to have a nature conservatory. That's his day job. And oh, he has this fame and stuff like that. And then like my backstory flowed from there. And I was just like, well, he's got to have like probably one of his closest friends is at the company. So then I was just like, Bill, this guy named Bill, he's one of my touchstones because he works at the company and he's like my go-to guy. So yeah. Anyways, goes back to just flowing with the backstory and everything. So yeah.
Yeah. What about things that you didn't like, you know, coming in new and fresh? Because I know I have some things, but they're really kind of more of a comparison between the previous edition and the new edition. Standalone wise, flaws like I do have, I mean, but this is, you know, I could expand on that. But what about you guys? I have some stuff that's more storyteller centric.
Yeah.
As players, what did you?
My biggest thing is just how the core rulebook was organized. And like that's a non-trivial problem to solve. I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect way to lay out a rule book, especially one that's how many pages is the Werewolf rule book? Like 300, 400 pages?
It's at least as thick as the well, no, it's thicker
334.
Yeah, like there's not going to be a perfect way to lay that book out, and I understand that, but I do think that a couple things should at least have like one page, like this is exactly how it's going to work front to back. Like the biggest example I can think of is how you assemble your dice pool and roll it, and the results are split up into like two different sections of the book. Like it describes like, here's how you assemble your dice pool. You take your trait and your stat and you add them and you roll them. Oh, and then like in like one sentence at the very end, it's like, oh, also you have to replace some of those dice with rage dice. And you're left like, what is that? What's that mean? And then it's not until like 100 pages later. Yeah. 100 pages later, you read the rage section and it finally clarifies. And you're like, oh, that's what that means.
So yeah, that was going to be my big thing, was that I didn't know how the replacing dice of rage really worked. And I'm glad there was a section that clarified it, but the biggest thing was I think, and we talked about it, we found a cheat sheet on Renegade's Discord server that some kind person posted for us, and that gave like examples of how like tests are done, difficulty tests. And it gave different examples of, here's what a successful one looks like, here's what a bad one looks like, and here's what happens with brutal criticals. And it did it both ways, like, you know, like, hey, this is a non-violent one, you got 2 brutal criticals, so it fails. But this one, you got 2 brutal criticals, but it was break down a door, so it was a success because you got this many successes. And just seeing that breakdown, that's when I was like, oh, that's how that works. Okay.
Yeah.
But
like something like that should just be, there should be a page of the book that does that. It shouldn't be up to like the fan community to make a cheat sheet for you. You should publish a cheat sheet that has the rules for resolving a check.
They always put like all of
combat was also likewise kind of difficult. Like, you know, that section on combat, you really have to kind of very carefully read the whole thing.
Yeah, it was a little messy, and I mean that might be one of those things where there's no real clean way to do it, and you just have to work your way through it a couple times before you start to figure it out.
You said, Dalton, to like include that cheat sheet. I mean, like all the time, RPGs include like an index, like the character sheets, and maybe some other stuff. Like in the back of this one, they have instant werewolves, like quick things that you can like put down for like how to make a werewolf real quick, and you could really easily put a cheat sheet in there and everything.
Do they have a screen, like a storyteller screen?
I think you can get one through Renegade.
Yeah.
And I think it's free. Like print it out. But, you know, the other thing is, you know, as a storyteller, I don't really need one.
Yeah, I just think like for like other games, like the GM screen normally has like those sorts of like flowcharts. Yeah,
tables on the back. Yeah, like how the
like little rules summaries, things like that. That'd be like,
that would have been really helpful.
That's like the place I think of when I think of like those little doodads that help clarify things and give summaries of stuff. Like the Avatar one, I got they published that one later, but it had like, here's the flow of combat, here's like all of the moves that are available to the players and stuff.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. This game is still fairly new, so that's probably like on the list of product to make eventually. Not always. Like priority is get the core rule book out and get it in people's hands. And then almost like you watch stuff like this and listen to people's feedback and you learn what needs clarified and what needs put out there. So there's probably people monitoring Discords and things with like, okay, I guess we do need to make that we need to make a cheat sheet for that. We need to make products for these sorts of things.
I apologize for stepping away. Speaking of raging, my dog raged out on a box of Kleenex, so I had to go put her away.
Oh man.
Classic.
It's just, she didn't even touch the Kleenexes. She just wanted the box. So anyways. As you were saying.
Yeah. No, so we were talking about just kind of one of the biggest kind of shortcomings with this, really not even with the game necessarily itself, but really just how the handbook was organized was a little messy's not even just not super intuitive at times, which was a shame. And it really is, it's kind of like, so, you know, you as the storyteller would have to really make sure you read that thing cover to cover, unfortunately, and just take, I don't know, however long it takes somebody to read something like that. Might be long.
Yeah.
Might not be.
I will say, like, I go back and forth on this. I think right now I appreciate that it was all one book, because there are some companies that might be like near bodies of water and cast spells that would have published like 3 different books that all cost $50. As opposed to the one book that like included like, here's the GM tips and stuff, here's all the lore, here's all the player rules, and it was all in one complete book. Isn't to say, like, I don't know if I wouldn't turn down like a paperback, like 25-30 page book that like, here's the player facing rules.
Yeah, the player pamphlet.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Or divide the core book up into maybe
smaller, more affordable chunks.
Yeah, smaller chunks. Or just organize it slightly differently. But again, I think that White Wolf was really good about that with the way that they set up their books, and this is a very, it's a pretty faithful adaptation from the original game. There were some pretty big changes, all in all, largely regarding the lore. Not even so much the lore, but the tribes changed quite a bit from the previous version. But other than that, I don't even know if they changed the name of the evil corporation. I think it was still Pentex in the old version. So I'd say, the only thing that you really could maybe get on their case about was that it was a little sanitized when it came to how they described each tribe of werewolves. The Glasswalkers, the Red Talons, because in the previous version, there were a lot more allusions and a lot more cultural representation. In terms of some of the, specifically the naming of the tribe. So one of them was the Uktena, which was a specifically, and I always thought it was like one of the cooler classes, but it was kind of, your character was supposed to specifically be of First Nations heritage. So, Indigenous American, Native American, First Nations, and if anybody's watching, please correct me on which. I usually just use First Nations to describe the people of the First Nations of America. They also had, they changed, and I don't know which one it became, but there was also the Fianna. And I forget who they were. But they were like a Celtic kind of background because there were wolves in Ireland and Scotland at one point. They were hunted to extinction, but this kept that tradition kind of alive about talking about the kind of those, and I get why they did it, and it's a real shame that we had to sacrifice, tribes like the Wendigo and the Fianna and the Uktena, but people got a little racist when it came to the Shadow Lords or the Get Offenders, not the Shadow Lords, Get Offenders.
Yeah, it's
like, oh, we're Northern Europeans, so that means we have to be Nazis.
It's a tough balancing act. It
is.
It's a tough tightrope to walk. And I can understand there being a little bit more of a backlash because from what I was reading, there were a couple missteps in Vampire the Masquerade's 5th edition that was made and surrounding some neo-Nazi aesthetics and some other questionable material that you probably don't want to associate yourself with or put in a book. Read more about that on your own time if it's interesting to you. But I can understand kind of taking a step back and sanitizing things a little bit. And maybe they took it a step too far. Maybe they didn't. And I don't think I personally am equipped to make that determination.
No, I agree with you. I think if it comes to making it slightly over sanitized for the sake of preventing the more unsavory elements, then that's just the call that has to be made.
Yeah.
And the biggest issue that I see, and once again, it, like Dalton said, it's a little hard to talk about representation when we have 3 white guys here.
Yeah, 3 white men talking about representation.
But I will say there is Coyote and Crow. It is a tabletop RPG written solely by a team of indigenous people. And me and Ashley actually own it, and how they address it, because the biggest thing in that book is it is a alternate kind of history where basically a giant volcano or some sort of apocalyptic event happened in Europe, so colonization never came to the Americas. So it's kind of like an alternate history in that way, but it's a little bit of magic and technology and stuff like that. Very cool. How they do it, though, is that they say specifically they address indigenous people and non-indigenous. And they're like, indigenous people, hey, this is our book. We have a lot of tribes and everything in here. If you want to put your tribe in this book, please do it. We made this so it's completely adaptable to your tribe, and you can put them in here. And then for non-indigenous people, they're like, hey, everything we put in this book, you can use. The tribes in this book are made up. We made them up. You can use that. You can play those tribes. Do not put tribes that from real world into this book or pretend to be that, because that can be offensive to a lot of indigenous people. So we ask you, please don't do that. Please be respectful. But please use anything in this book. And that's like kind of what you're saying, Justin. There's a way to have representation still in the book without kind of like just removing it completely, right? So
yeah. Again, though, I get why they did it. So I mean that's really, again, and we're trying to. I am really nitpicking at stuff for the sake of our discussion here. So that we can kind of, address the issue in general. Yeah. I honestly don't think it really took anything away. I know that not everybody agrees with me. Whatever, that's fine.
Oh yeah, the Grognards are going to be upset.
Yeah, the Grognards are going to be real upset. But like, I mean, yeah, I don't. Frankly, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, it also like.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Whatever they publish in the book or don't publish in the book isn't going to prevent people in their own home from doing what they want with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think you can leave out all of the real life comparisons and the kind of like more touchy subjects and let people explore that on their own in ways that they're comfortable with. And
sorry, what were you saying?
No, you're gonna say something?
No, I was trying to figure out who the tribes ended up becoming, like which ones were ended up becoming which. But
do that too.
Yeah. I just like kind of like what Coyote and Crow does. I think that is a perfectly reasonable expectation. Here's this fictional setting we've come up with. Use the fictional stuff. Don't bring in like your half-baked half understanding of things and caricaturized stuff that you aren't like that you don't have any knowledge of or equipped to deal with, and especially don't do it in public at people who are going to be offended by it.
Yeah. Right, because that's at the end of it, these are games. They're supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
What's not fun is you making fun of other people's culture.
Yeah. And like
end of statement.
Yeah. and like it gets more closer to like where you have to be a little bit more careful about it in games like this that are explicitly taking place like in present day and is trying to tell stories that relate to stuff that are happening today and like very real issues we're dealing with. I like Werewolf the Apocalypse, I think is kind of meant to help you explore more modern stories and present day issues in I think interesting and cool ways. But that does kind of like bring you closer to the being hurtful to particular groups if you're not careful and not coming at it with the intent of being respectful. And I think the book itself did a good job of, or at least doing its best to kind of like keep you on the right path. Like you have to actively go against what the book is trying to do to venture into that kind of problematic territory.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. So again, for all intents and purposes, I thought they did a pretty good job, and I thought it was a pretty faithful adaptation from the third edition. And I thought they did a pretty good job.
I love the storytelling aspects of it for sure. And I'm glad to hear that, like, I'm coming in brand new into 5th edition, and then, like you're saying, like, oh, okay, yeah, they changed some of the lore, but it's not, like, huge changes, right?
It really just changed a lot of the naming conventions. Yeah, and they did change some of the lore surrounding the individual, like, tribes don't come from specific areas anymore. And again, that's what we need to do to make sure that we are not being offensive to people. Then that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Because becoming a Garu, it's so interesting because even in the book, they kind of leave it up for the game master's interpretation, right? Like they're just like, Gaia chooses you. Most werewolves don't know how it's done, but Gaia chooses you and you become a werewolf. Your parents don't have to be a werewolf. You just become a werewolf one time, sometime. And I think that's really cool role-playing aspect. I love that. Because I think it used to be different, right, Justin?
What?
Becoming a Garou. It wasn't just a random choice. Like all of a sudden, like boom, you're
No, yeah, it was.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
Well,
yeah, like it's not a random choice. Well, I guess it is. It's a random choice on the part of Gaia.
Yeah,
She picks you.
She picks you, and
yeah. Sometimes there was like stronger lineages.
Yeah,
like
if your parents were
well, like not even who your parents were. Like it happened a lot in your family tree.
Okay.
You know, like every once a generation, someone would be one. Might be your cousin, might have been your mom.
In the visual novel I read, it was the main character's grandmother, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
It, like, skipped her parents and then, yeah.
So they did that. And they say that in the book. It calls out that it is. There's really no rhyme or reason to who is and who is not Garou. Yeah, combat was vague, but not really so vague that you couldn't just kind of figure it out as you're playing. That's the other nice thing about it. The level of rule of cool is pretty solid. It lets you just kind of keep the game moving even when you're relatively unsure.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought was really nice from the storyteller perspective is the way that they're writing the way that they wrote their, speaking, flip side of things that I thought things, I may have not liked as much. Things I really liked and really appreciated, especially as the storyteller, was how they set up the module.
From your perspective. Yeah.
So the module was pretty cool. They give you kind of a background on who the big baddie is and what's going on and how it came to be. And they give you some, kind of NPCs that are involved in all of this. And then they specifically call it out, like, this exists in kind of, a slightly different dimension, and kind of those multiple Earth series, philosophy in that kind of definition of dimension, alternate reality, so put this setting in your city, or a city that everybody's familiar with. So that way people understand the lay of the land. It's not like a game like Cyberpunk where you're kind of starting from a civilization ground up. It's like, nope, it's just regular old kind of super polluted late 20th century Earth, early 21st century Earth. The other cool thing I thought that they did was, they kind of set it up where, like, here are your plot points. Here are your points of conflict. And the main part that we're really trying to get here is your players need this information or should need this information in order to kind of push themselves onto the next scene or act or whatever you want to, into the next act.
Yeah.
And if they change scene on you randomly and go where they're not supposed to go, or go where, like, you kind of hadn't planned, that's okay. Just put that information in to where they do go.
The next spot.
Yeah, just wherever they end up going, work it in there. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it too much. Just work it in. It's fine. They call out some stuff like, you're supposed to, in the starter module, your character's supposed to hack this guy's computer. And, if your characters didn't really take, you don't have any glass walkers or whatever, anybody that's like real high tech, you just make it analog. You just rifle through his Rolodex and filing cabinet. or put it, he left his phone out and doesn't have a password on it because he's a boomer or whatever.
And it's too much.
Yeah. He's dirty, so you can tell where the code is and make him roll a investigation check or whatever to be able to map out the 4 digits.
Yeah, just like with like advantage and flaws, how we were talking about, it really helped us get into character. Having it like explicitly tell you, pick a city that they're familiar with, make it your city, and all of us being like knowing Columbus and being able to take a place there. Like I visualize. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, I know like where we're at. I know where we're going. Okay, we're in Hocking Hills. Okay, we gotta drive back. That's a while away. Stuff like that. So yeah.
Yep. We'd always set stuff in New York growing up. Mm-hmm. If you had to get to a cairn out in the middle of the Adirondacks, it's like, oh no, that's far. So it is cool. It lets you and your group make it your own. Really, really kind of tailored. Each game is very tailored to you and your group. They give you a lot of freedom and leeway as a dungeon master, because I've gone through in other RPGs, who we won't name names about their publisher, they're like, oh, you come to this camp of little fantasy creatures. They can do this check, or this check. And this is like, okay, well, wherever they go, you're trying to give them this information, not like you're withholding this information. You want to actively give it to your players. It is your responsibility as the storyteller to give them this information so they can go from this scene to the next scene and then ultimately progress to the next act. Which was really helpful because sometimes you guys did stuff I wasn't ready for. I won't name names, Spencer.
You go and talk to police when they're looking for you. That's what you do.
Yeah, that's what you do. When the police are looking for you, you don't just walk away before they can see you. You go and lie poorly to them.
Yeah.
Not only do you lie poorly.
Yep.
Like I could have easily just it was my.
You tell
I could have
blatant
just
lies poorly.
Yeah, Spencer. Yeah, your character really needed to learn the lesson that you can never talk yourself out of an arrest, but you can talk yourself into a conviction. Someone really needed to sit your character down and teach them that lesson.
Oh, they almost learned that lesson more than once.
Yeah.
They got like this close. Didn't say anything super incriminating.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You just. Ooh. And you were supposed to be like the smart one.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Well,
anyway.
my character was smart. That doesn't mean that
I am. Yeah, no. But yeah, I think all in all, that was and then they kind of leave it open ended. They give you a few more like things that because I didn't bring in a couple of things in the book because it just didn't make sense to bring them in. You guys didn't need that happening. Also, we were trying to keep it to just a few sessions. Mm-hmm. It probably could have been spread out into more. I think that if you had a really kind of efficient group, you might have been able to do it in less. They say it's a one shot that to be able to get done in 4 hours. You would need a really goal oriented group to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I don't know. So I thought 9
hours. Yeah.
Yeah. 3 or 4 sessions. I think you can do that first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think anybody, when they're saying that, are accounting for the learning the game time.
True. True. Yeah. If you had a bunch of veterans who had already played 3rd edition a million times.
Yeah. Like the people playtesting it knew and understood the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they were probably basing how long it took off of people who like fully and wholly understood the rules well and didn't have to like go look stuff up and things like that. They were just kind of playing the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those difficult problems that are very hard to solve, is estimating how long an adventure is going to take. That's kind of an impossible problem.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to pick a baseline, and the baseline is like excluding the learning the game part.
Yeah. Well, you know, and also to combat that, I think that they did include the time frame issue. Mm-hmm. So, like, you can be like, hey, the day's progressing. You can't just sit here in the shop all day. You know, because we've all had that in other games, mm-hmm. Where your party wants to sit in town and shop the whole session.
Yep.
You know, so I thought that one of the good things that they did here was, you know, there's a ticking clock. The bad guy is actively looking for the same people that you're looking for.
Mm.
And if he beats you to them, that's problems for you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because your goal is to keep. Yeah, you won't be able to keep him alive if he gets there before you. He's gonna murder them.
That's what murderers do.
That's what murderers do. You know, they get to the murdering. Yeah. So. Yeah. All in all, you know, I thought pretty faithful adaptation. I thought that. You know, despite the slightly confusing organization of the rule book, you know, especially once you got those cheat sheets on, game flowed a lot more quickly. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'd put it in the recommend pile.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Recommend pile.
You know, what else could have helped it out other than a cheat sheet for the organization?
Your your storyteller being a little bit more prepared. Yeah, maybe.
No, I was going to say adding flowcharts.
Oh, yeah, they do. Well, they do have kind of that the how the group knows each other flowchart, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the module is set up where it's like, hey, this is Act 1. This is what we want to happen in Act 1. This mm-hmm. is how you get from Act 1 to Act 2. You know, so it really is. I mean, it reads a little bit like a movie script, honestly.
Yeah. I mean,
to a certain degree. Sorry.
I mean, I was going to say,
to a certain degree, it's a little bit like a movie script.
Yeah. There were definitely like a couple systems that like I would be excited to interact with more if I were like play the game some more, and like that I think were cool that just like didn't come up because like that's kind of the nature of what we're doing. We're playing a small slice of the intro game, but definitely some cool ideas like the like Justin, you just alluded to it, the relationship map and like actively keeping track of it and it being like a gameplay tool is something neat and something that like I'm probably gonna like keep in mind after reading it to like add to other games. I think that's super cool, and it being like a collaborative thing that the entire party or troop works on together and keeps updated. I think that's a cool tool, kind of like how Avatar didn't invent it; it came from other systems. But the idea of clocks as like a transferable, like little subsystem mechanic.
Was it Blades in the Dark that came up with it, or
I don't know if Blades in the Dark invented it, or if it was the Apocalypse world that spawned the whole like powered by the apocalypse genre. I know Forged in the Dark heavily features clocks. I just don't know off the top of my head if they were the first to do it or not.
Introduced in Apocalypse World.
Okay.
Just found that out.
Yeah, because I knew it was a pretty big cornerstone of Powered by the Apocalypse games, and Blades in the Dark is an offshoot of that school of game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that I did want to. I wish we could have interacted with like the cairn systems in traits, because I love like the base building, like the idea of having like a home base.
Yeah.
I think that's very cool, and to have a system for it, and is neat, and it's one of the only things I'm excited for in the new round of D&D rules is the is the bastions.
Yes.
That's like one of the few things I'm excited for. Is having use for that.
Kind of a stronghold bastion system. That's great.
Yeah. I wonder if they're influenced by, because I have Matthew Koval's strongholds and followers.
Mhm.
So I wonder if they were influenced by that a little bit, or if it was just something that like the fan community were like, we want this, and so they added it.
We want to build castles.
I mean, like that's something that I think has always been a part of D&D, and like was more something that was missing than something that they're like doing something new. Like high level D&D or OG like advanced D&D and stuff was about like you become a ruler of your own kingdom and you have hirelings, and like that was how like martial characters became powerful, was because they were commanding armies. As opposed to the wizards who could like cast more and more powerful spells. Like your fighters became kings.
Yeah.
So this is more. I view this more as like a modern return to form than aping Matthew Colville.
Makes sense, but it's cool that like Werewolf has that like built in. And that's cool. There's like, it's not just like here's a base storytelling mechanics, just go. It's like no. There's systems that you have to maintain and balance and do. Yeah,
I did think that they did that really well. Is that there was kind of a system, even if it was just a loose system in place to do anything you could kind of think of related to being Garou or in Garou society. Like there is a rule for how you have to argue in a tribal setting, in a group of Garou. When a bunch of Garou get together, they have a lot of rules, and their society is actually kind of almost ironically rigid because they're such creatures of violence and rage. Having a formal argument is so formalized that it has its own kind of separate rule system. Not separate rule system, but like a system governed by this, D10 pit system about how it's supposed to work. That was, we didn't get into why Galliards, their kind of like bardic class, is really cool because they're really good at that kind of thing. We didn't get into building a full cairn, although you guys did get one at the end.
The ability to, yes.
Yeah, the ability to, the rights and stuff like that. We just very, very briefly touched on, because there aren't so much spells in Werewolf. There are these things called rights, and they take time to do, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And then there's gifts too. Those are not really spells either.
Speaking of the rule of cool, I thought it was really cool that you let Ashley perform that one rite, like, so we could follow that spirit.
Yeah, we were like at the end of the game, and I'm like, all right, nothing that we really. I mean, you guys have done great so far. This isn't going to affect anything.
Yeah.
You want to kill the final spirit. You want to kill the evil spirit. Go ahead.
Yeah. Super
Knock
cool.
yourself out, guys. I want you guys to have fun with it. Yeah. So let's see. We have been casting for like an hour. I don't know if there's anything we're really forgetting to talk about with the system. Anything we normally talk about during these wrap-up sessions,
Other than flowcharts, also tables. I don't know. I just like that kind of stuff. I mean, there's not a whole lot of like items in Werewolf and stuff like that, like you would have in like Cyberpunk. But I always think kind of like grouped up information or examples that kind of like organized in that way just goes back into organization of the book. But I don't want to harp on that too much. I think the book is fantastic. I think this is a great system, and I love that it's also interconnected with like the other, like Vampire the Masquerade and also Hunter the Reckoning. Like it all uses the same similar system. Different people are going to use different mechanics, but like it's all the general kind of same system, which I think is cool. So
yeah. Yeah, werewolf or vampire and hunter, pretty much the same thing. They just kind of, they work a little different. The style of play, especially with hunter, very different. I think a lot of times hunter, you're not really necessarily hunting Garou. I'd want to play that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I think they did a pretty good job. I had a lot of fun running it. The group seemed to like it. If you have it is a little involved. So I would say that about. If you're thinking about dipping some toes into the tabletop RPG realm, you don't want to start with this. This is too spicy for you.
It's a lot.
It's too spicy.
Yeah. That's why we put a mature content warning.
We did. Yeah, it is. I mean, it does deal with like mature themes. Like, so obviously this is, if you're a parent, and the kids are going to play a little bit differently. But this is, they even put it in their book that this is really a game more for adults. Mm-hmm. Whereas, especially other RPGs can much more easily, some like games like we've regularly played, like Cats of Cthulhu, much more, much more younger age friendly.
I mean, you don't even count in that game. You just have happy cats and you have sad cats.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Is Cats of Cthulhu can be played with very young children.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be kiddies.
Yep.
What are we going to do? Oh, you're just going to be the kiddies. We're going to talk about what the kiddies want to do, and we'll do whatever you guys want to do as kiddies.
Yep.
How do we play? Well, you roll the die, and then there's happy cats and sad cats. If you get happy cats, you can do it. If you get sad cats, you can't do it. Yeah, I could play that game with my 4-year-old nephew.
Yeah, you don't really have to address like.
And I mean that is a good thing. That's I had a blast with Cats of Cthulhu. I thought that was a really fun game. It's a game you could play. A group of adults could play a round of Cats of Cthulhu in 2-3 hours.
It goes back to what there's a special, like each tabletop RPG is doing something different, right? So that's
I would judge this one on a scale of like how well does it do at like people playing the type of game that's intended by it. Like if you want a story focused, like gritty realism type game, that's meant to like tell like intense, like Garou focused like stories that it wants to tell, like those goth punk stories that it describes. Like I would definitely reach for this game and play it again. Like if that's the type of game I wanted. I think it does a good job at doing what it's intending to do, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think Renegade really kind of nailed it. I would play it again. I would be excited to. I have Vampire, so next year maybe we'll be the baddies. Hans, we will be the baddies.
I would love that. I'm excited for that.
Because you try and be an unrepentant monster, but you feed off the blood of the living. So
yep. Mm-hmm.
Like the scale of you not being awful is really it's really just kind of on the scale of how not awful are you.
In this game, in Werewolf,
good versus evil. Yeah, you can really kind of run the gamut. You can be really kind of you can just be a bloodthirsty monster. You can be kind of like connected to the human morality. Vampire, not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to play. I'd play Hunter too. That's sounds fun. I'm excited for them to do maybe some expansions and bring in the Grawl, which are the werebears.
What? That's a thing?
Yeah, that was the thing. That was one of the expansions that they did with Werewolf the Apocalypse. They did werebears, and werebears are cool because they're slightly more powerful because they're designed to be more solitary creatures.
Yeah, the book makes reference to like other shifting groups. It just happens to be that like the Garou are the one that survived. Like they're the last ones left.
Yeah, that is something they kind of allude to, is that they're, as far as we know, the Garou are the last of the kin.
And that was the word I was trying to think what the word for that was.
The last of the kin. But who knows? Maybe they'll roll out some other stuff, because they had some funky stuff. They had shark people and gator people and minotaurs, and it got real funky fresh toward the later.
Now these shark people, are you saying that I could be like a street shark?
Yes. Yes, I'm saying exactly that.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what they were in their Krynos form, I think. They were like street sharks.
Yeah, I think they've updated Vampire, Hunter, and Werewolf all on this system so far of the various like World of Darkness games. I think those are the 3 that they've updated. I don't know if they have plans for doing however many other ones they used to have.
Oh, well, some of them got really weird, not weird, but just really cerebral and ethereal toward the end. I mean, there was Changeling, and there was like one where you were like a ghost. There was one where you were like a Frankenstein monster. There was Mummy. There was, I mean, maybe the one that they might do next is the Demon, where you are a denizen of hell inhabiting a body. You have possessed someone.
I'm getting huge supernatural vibes. This is sweet.
I mean, that's what Hunter the Reckoning is. It's supernatural.
Yeah, Hunter the Reckoning is like the first 3 seasons of Supernatural.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Back when it was like gritty and like be like, oh no, you know, hunters are short lived. Before it's like, I am Jesus returned in the form of Jensen Ackles.
I will say, it seems like Sam and Dean, they always survive, but like even in the later seasons, the hunters die off still pretty quickly. Nobody really sticks around.
Yeah. It was also supposed to end in season 5. Like it wasn't supposed to keep going.
Hey.
Yeah, that show canonically ended at season 5. Everything after that's just fan fiction.
Yeah.
There's still some good moments that happen later.
There's plenty of fun, good moments. I've watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Fun moments.
Yeah.
Are there good moments?
Yes. Yes, there are.
The one guy playing.
Wait, be careful. Ashley hasn't seen all of it.
Well, she's not going to watch this video.
Statute of limitations on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For like, I mean, what is it still going?
No, they had a final season. That's actually the only season I haven't watched. So
yeah, no, I loved what's his face is Kane. Who's that actor?
Yes. Oh, I'll look it up. Give me a second.
No, it's not Steve Buscemi, but I love him. He's one of my favorite actors. He was in Gallivant, and I love Gallivant so much. Bring back Gallivant season 3.
Timothy Michael Udmundson.
Sure,
Timothy Udmundson. Yeah, he's got full hair, full beard. Yeah. Yep.
He was really good as Kane, and the Demon Dean thing was fun enough.
Yeah.
I'll hold off on last season spoilers because there's definitely some complaints to be made.
Oh, I was just saying that they get like the bunker in like season 8, and I think that's a really cool thing.
I thought, the Men of Letters bunkers thing was a neat little subplot.
Timothy Udmundson. I'll link it to you. But anyways, we need to go onto this supernatural.
Justin, did you not see Gallivant? Watch Gallivant.
I know this guy. He's good in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He's a great character actor. He's hilarious.
Like Woody Woodpecker show in 2017. I'm sorry, I'm making a bad joke.
All right. Well, but everybody does stuff that's not great. Okay.
I think we've digressed fully from Werewolf. I think it's time to wrap up the conversation.
I think so too. Yeah. All right. Wow.
Listening to our little ramble at the end.
Yeah.
We'll try out Gallivant, the role-playing game. Soon enough.
Do they have one? Oh my god!
No, they don't have that.
Let's make one, and let's make singing mandatory.
I think it would be very difficult to translate musical theater into a tabletop RPG.
No, they do it at improv shows all the time.
It's really just improv with rolling dice. This is tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah.
It's just lots of persuasion rolls.
But we should give. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about what we're doing next?
I was going to say attributions, and then maybe next.
Yeah. We can give our one final shout outs to everybody.
Werewolf the Apocalypse, obviously we already talked about it, made by Renegade Game Studios. They do a bunch of different stuff other than Vampire the Masquerade and Hunter the Reckoning. They do a ton of like well-known IPs as like
they got
tabletop role-playing games.
G.I. Joe, they got Power Rangers, and some of these exist as tabletop games too that we haven't played just yet. So
Transformers.
Scouts, Transformers, I can't wait to be The Rock. I'm just going to be The Rock. That's my character. And he'd be like, hey, what's your name? I'm like, Dwayne Johnson. Like, I am The Rock.
We used Roll20 mostly for rolling this campaign, but very easy to do. I think we mentioned it before, but Roll20, we love it. Just for hosting our campaigns and like being able to see all of our dice rolls going at once. You can set it where if you use the greater than or less than, you can do it. Like we were saying, like it showed us how many were like above 6 or 6 or above, which was super helpful and just counting successes and making that quicker. That was super cool. What else did we use? Right now you're seeing in the background, this is actually free art asset, from Renegade themselves. It was a part of, I believe, Vampire the Masquerade, but basically they said you're allowed to kind of use it for your campaigns and settings and stuff, as long as you include the little Dark Pact stamp and make sure you read the Dark Pact, what all entails of that. It's just making sure you understand that their IP is their IP.
We may have sold our souls to Renegade. I'm not sure. We didn't read the fine print.
A little bit, What's one Dark Pact between friends?
Yeah, just...
Yeah. We used HeroForge. That's what you see with Ashley in her wolf form right now, but also Dan's character. We made all 3 of our main forms, our wolf, our human, and our Krynos form in HeroForge, which is really cool to be able to do all 3 of those forms pretty well in all of that. They also have werebears. If you're curious about that, you can be a werebear in HeroForge, which is cool. Level.
You do what you like.
Yeah.
Live.
They're very, very constantly updating and adding all sorts of new bits and doodads to HeroForge.
Yeah.
Both they're doing a
very cool program.
They're doing a like 12 days of Xmas, I think, right now. And so is Renegade, actually. They're doing a different deal each day. We're currently on day 8 if you're watching today. Hopefully they're still doing the 12 deals of Renegade while you're watching. Go check them out. So, yeah.
I won't care until they release HeroScape again.
So, yeah. But, I think that's all our attributions. Who wants to say what we're doing next?
Oh, I think you should, Spence, because I think you're going to be
You're going to be DMing it. I'm making you GM it.
Yeah. So,
you're going to be our GM. Going back to our regularly scheduled game master, Spencer.
I'm back, baby.
Only bring in Justin for the goth spooky stuff.
You did such a great job. I love your storytelling, though. That's what I thought was really cool.
I watched a lot of Tim Burton growing up.
Yeah. But no. We're taking 3 months kind of a break. It's the holidays. We got New Year's, we got Christmas. What?
What's said that? 3 months.
3 months? I'm sorry,
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, we're taking a 3-week break.
Whoa.
We want to finish up Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, and New Year's.
We did get a hello in the chat, by the way. Hello,
Hi.
Very Vorsted. Very Vorsted. I hope I said that right. But welcome in. Unfortunately, you're catching us right as we're about to leave. But like we were saying, we have a new RPG we're going to do beginning of January. Tune in probably January 7th. We're still getting all of our schedules down, but we are doing Lancer. If you haven't heard of Lancer, it's an indie RPG, right? It's considered indie.
I mean, the line between indie and not indie is very thin.
That's true. So it is a mech RPG. So
We're
kind
excited.
of,
It's going to be Gundam Wing the RPG.
yeah.
It's by Massive Press. They're the company behind it.
Or is it a little bit more? Is it in space, or is it a little bit more like maybe Titanfall? Is it better like?
It's got space stuff going on. I think you can do battles in space. I think it's mostly terrestrial in terms of like the mech fighting.
Yeah, it's a little bit more like Titanfall.
Yeah. There were plenty of on planet Gundam fights in Gundam Wing.
Oh yeah. So that's super exciting because Lancer is kind of a tactical RPG when it comes to like the mech combat on your missions and stuff like that, but kind of a rules light storytelling when you're outside of that, when you're just kind of like in your downtime and everything. So very excited to do that. I'm very happy to run it. Dalton specifically wanted to be a player for this.
Well, I want to build my mech. I want to customize it. I want to paint it. I want to put cool lasers on it.
Laser sword.
So
Can we get a laser sword?
Oh, there has to be a beam saber in there.
There's gotta be.
Boom.
Sure. One of the art is a giant mech in a cowboy hat shooting a revolver. So
Oh, I want that. I want that instead. New thing, I called it. I want a giant cowboy hat.
I'll show you pictures of the Tequila Gundam after we get off.
It's a 10,000 gallon hat.
Oh, so yeah. So okay. But yeah, that's our time for today. Very Versted, thank you so much for joining us right at the end. But please come back and see us again when we come back in January, most likely January 7th.
And don't forget to check us out on YouTube. We got all the stuff already loaded up. So if you want to check us out and maybe come back and check us out again after the break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of our previous sessions uploaded, but we also do how-to videos on there. We got how-tos for Call of Cthulhu. We mentioned Cast of Cthulhu, and we have more on the way. So,
and we're gonna have the werewolf one up sooner than later.
Yes, actually,
maybe later than
the full VODs for the werewolf campaign are up on YouTube if you wanted to watch our werewolf campaign.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
So as always, thanks for watching and keep on learning, guys.
Thank you. Bye.